What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to The Breakdown, the series where I analyze gameplay to help you improve. In today's episode, we're going to be analyzing a Domination gameplay on Comeback from Kaitjuhh. I have no idea if I pronounced that correctly, so if I didn't, I apologize, but that's what I'm going with. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so as always, let's start it off with the class setup. For this gameplay, he's using the Obsidian Steed. He's got extended mags, quick draw grip, and foregrip. Then he's got low profile, blind eye, toughness, blast suppressor, score streaks. He's got a UAV, support, threat detection, extra time, orbital care package. That one is support, I believe, better odds, and the reroll one, I don't even know what it's called because I never use the orbital care package. And then finally we have the aerial assault drone, and it looks like that is AI and rocket control, or rockets and AI control. There we go. So what do I think about this class? Well, the Obsidian Steed, obviously, it's a great gun in the right hands. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but I do know how powerful it is, so definitely a good choice. As for attachments on it, he has extended mags, quick draw grip, and foregrip. I'm definitely a fan of the quick draw grip on this, and extended mags isn't a bad choice, but one thing to realize with the Obsidian Steed is it has a very slow fire rate with high damage output. Because of this, you're not going to be just bursting through magazines like super quickly like you would with the Bal Inferno. And therefore, I feel like extended mags isn't really needed on this, but it isn't like a bad thing to have on it. I would prefer to go with something like the stock in this case instead. And same thing goes for the foregrip. Because this gun has such a low fire rate, it doesn't have very much recoil to begin with. So I wouldn't really recommend having a foregrip on this. I'd recommend something else instead. It's not like it's a completely useless attachment, but I would much rather see stock on this gun, especially with your playstyle. There's a lot of instances where you kind of creep around corners aiming down sight, and we'll see that once we get into the gameplay, and stock would help you so much in these particular cases. So I would definitely swap that out. As for perks, these perks look great, although the one thing, this is just kind of a map specific thing, you don't have Flak Jacket, and this is Comeback. You pretty much always want to have Flak Jacket when you're playing Comeback, especially Domination, because you're going to be in that B flag area. There's going to be nades like crazy, and it's only a matter of time before you get killed several times by these nades and all sorts of explosives. So I definitely would have recommended Flakjack, but just for this particular map. Overall, as a class, if we're not looking at the map you're playing, nothing wrong with having low profile here. As for score streaks, the UAV is great with support, threat detection. That's very powerful if the enemy team is not running low profile. The orbital care package, I don't normally recommend that, but for this particular map, it's definitely a good choice, and the reason for that is Walker tanks. It's probably the most powerful score streak in the game, and it's only on this map, and you can only get it with an orbital care package. So you're using support, better odds, and then the one that allows you to reroll it. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get Walker tanks at some point in this game as long as you can get to your care packages. So not a bad choice at all. And also the aerial assault drone with AI and rockets, always a great choice. Doesn't really matter what map you're on. This is a very powerful score streak as long as your enemies aren't running blind eye. So that's enough about the setup. Let's get into the gameplay. So you decided to capture the C flag. One key thing to point out about this map is if you decide to stick around and capture the first flag, you have to realize when you enter that B room, you are going to be running into enemies, and it's very likely that an enemy has rushed and already beat you to that room. So you got to have your gun up, ready to go. You kind of just sprinted around the corner. Your gun wasn't up, you weren't ready for a gunfight, and that's the reason you got killed there. Now, as you come off spawn, you obviously lost the B flag there. I like that you checked over there. You were checking to make sure somebody wasn't coming on your flank before pushing up like this. You know your back is safe now, and that was great. One thing I didn't really like, and you do this a few times throughout the gameplay, is you actually crouched and then edged your way around the corner very slowly into an area where you knew enemies were going to be, and you knew they were going to be waiting for you there. This is a very common mistake. I've actually covered this a couple times in the past in this series. But basically, when you're crouching and strafing around, you're moving slower, so you're being a much easier target to hit in that sense, and you're really not reducing the size of the target you're presenting to your enemy. Very slightly because you're crouching, but it doesn't make that much of a difference that it's worth doing. Also, since you didn't have the stock attachment, it made it even worse. So you did get lucky in that situation. You actually managed to get a kill instead of being killed, but against an enemy that was really ready for you there, you would have been dead for sure. Now, this next situation is something that I don't really like to see. You're on their flank, you have a clear shot at their backs as you're coming into this room. It's very obvious that they're preoccupied with your teammates that are coming from the C side. So all you had to do was walk into this room and start shooting people in the back. It was very, very simple. Instead, you stopped in probably the worst possible place you could be just stopped standing. The reason for that is this is a very popular choke point in Domination, and this is where almost all of the deaths are going to occur in a game of Domination on comeback. You'd never want to just stop here, especially when you don't have teammates surrounding you, supporting you, and when you know that they have your back covered. In this situation, you're all alone there, so what you have to do is just burst into this room, get the kills, clear out that room. They'll be really easy kills because it's very unlikely they'll be looking towards where you are. They're going to be preoccupied with your teammates, so just burst in, get your kills, then you can turn around and focus on the people coming from the A flag behind you. Instead, you lingered, and you don't want to linger there ever in Domination. So right here, I just wanted to point out great map awareness. You know that line of sight from my Maps Exposed where you can jump up there, you get a nice line of sight on that really popular head glitch in the B flag. There wasn't anybody there, but just the fact that you used it is great. Now, this situation right here, you are being triple capped. So you push for a home flag, not a bad choice at all. You want to push for a home flag, get control of that, get the spawn sort of equalized a little bit, and that was a good thing. And you can see throughout this gameplay that your teammates really aren't pulling their weight, at least most of them. They're not pushing the B flag very effectively. I know they're trying to push, but they're not doing it very effectively. So this means it's kind of on you. But one thing you start doing here, I don't know if it's because you were close to an assault drone or what, is you start playing really defensively. You can't play defensively when you only hold one flag in Domination if you expect to win the game. When you're only holding one flag, you better be pushing and doing something to try and take control of the second flag. Instead, you're just sort of hanging out here. I can kind of see that if you're close to like a really high streak, but this assault drone isn't likely to change the tide of the game by earning it. So being back towards this A spawn, it's not really doing anything to help your team right now. You're just sort of hanging out back there, not really being much of an asset. You should have been pushing towards a B flag, especially because you're running support streaks as well. Now in here, great push, great use of the dash. A lot of people don't use the dash enough when they're breaking into this room. It's so easy once enemies have this area locked down. It's so easy for them to just pick you off if you walk around the corner, which is what a lot of people do. If you do a crazy dash into that room, or what I like to do is like a sliding dash, and then I jump and then dash, and it's just really hard to hit me. I call it kind of the slingshot move. So it's a slide into an instant double jump with a dash. You're almost impossible to hit, and you can actually use that to effectively clear out the B room. So great awareness there using that. That shows that you really know what you're doing in a gunfight, at least in that particular situation, and that's great. Now right here, you get overrun by enemies. Not your fault at all, you just get overrun. That happens on this map. Your teammates weren't pushing up to take control of that B flag with you, but right there is where I wanted to point out what you should have been doing this entire game essentially, or pushing towards doing. You pushed in, you were able to clear off that B flag area, so you have the skill to be able to do that against these enemies, and yet you avoid doing it for most of the game. That's what needs to be done, especially in this situation right now. This is something else I wanted to point out. You got your walker tanks. There is one safe place on this map from walker tanks, and that is in the B flag area. Now right there, I know you didn't have a home flag, but you guys did hold the B flag, and you did have some teammates in there. Instead of pushing back and capping the A flag, you should have pushed into the B flag area and kept it cleared out, kept the enemies away from that area, because that's the safe area. That's where they get to go to be safe. If you keep them out of that area, then you're going to get more kills with your walker tanks, and it's going to be more and more frustrating for them. Plus, the home flags on this map are pretty easy to capture. If you lock down the B flag, even the most random teammates are eventually going to spawn near the A or C flag, and they'll just hop on it just because it's right there. So the home flags are easy. Don't worry about them too much if your teammates aren't pulling the weight. You have to hold the B flag on this map in order to win. It's almost impossible to win the game by holding C and A on this map simply because of the way the spawns work. So I've already talked a bunch, so I have to skip ahead to the second round here. And I just want to point out here, he makes that same mistake where he lingers in that area. I just want to point out that that's a habit that you have to break on this map. But here is great map awareness. You're watching that door because you know your teammates aren't pushed up enough to actually watch that doorway, and it's very possible enemies could be coming from there. So you're watching that doorway, but as soon as you see that enemy pop up on the minimap, you're ready to turn around, and you were able to get that kill. So great map awareness. I actually saw that a few times throughout this gameplay, even though I wasn't able to point it out every single time I saw it, because if I were to stop and analyze this entire gameplay, each episode would be like half an hour to 40 minutes long, and I simply don't have time for that. But there are lots of cases in this gameplay where you do have great map awareness. Now right here is something that I've noticed with my gameplay, I've started doing, every time I start using these player-controlled streaks that are really high streaks, and you'll notice right now, you can't see any of the enemies. You have really no idea where they are, and you're just kind of spraying around, hoping for a kill. Meanwhile, you're being double capped, and you're falling further and further behind in this game as time goes on. You can't really do much with this Paladin in this particular case. If anything, you're going to be lucky to get a few kills, and I believe you only did get 2 or 3 kills with this Paladin. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to just exit the streak by holding square because you're on PS3 or PS4, sorry, or X on Xbox One. Just leave the Paladin, leave the streak. It's not getting you any kills anyways. The way you play when you're on the ground, I think you actually would have got more gun kills if you weren't in that Paladin. So sometimes you just have to think about the situation and think, is it best for me to actually be using this streak right now, or should I maybe get out of the streak? I know that's kind of odd advice, but that's simply true in Advanced Warfare. These higher streaks just aren't as effective as they used to be in older Call of Duties. So that's going to wrap it up for today's episode of The Breakdown. He ended up actually doing pretty well. He led his team. He did pretty well overall, had a fair amount of captures, but keep in mind, most of the captures were on the home flags. And like I said earlier, these home flags are very easy to capture, and they don't really win games. The home flags don't win games of domination on comeback. It's all about that B flag, so you want to focus on the B flag. If you guys would like to have one of your gameplays analyzed in a future episode of The Breakdown, then feel free to send a link to a video of that gameplay. Keep in mind, I'm just looking for raw gameplay, no commentary, and at least 720p in quality. Just send a link to that gameplay to the email address that I will leave in the description below. I'll have a look at it, and if it's something that I want to analyze, then I will do that for a future episode. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.